This episode of The Clear Out was recorded on the 5th of January 2022 at home in Wicklow. Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to this new year, this new moment. This week's episode is very much focused on what? New beginnings. It's focused on how we think about time. And it is focused on change. And I am arguing that time is not our friend. Did anybody ever say it was? Yeah. So it's a bit of an exploration of how we think about time, how we divide up time, how that's not always helpful or healthy. And I am advocating for being present, for accepting what we can control in this moment. And I lay out my own desire for change as we begin this year. And at the very, very, very end of the episode, there is a movie reference. Short and sweet, but it's there. So, yes. That's what's coming up. It's coming up real soon. It's coming up now. I'll see you there. Cheers. Bye.
Ooh, not gonna change my mind. Leaving the dream behind.
Hi, my name is Dara Clear, and you're listening to The Clear Out. How are you? You're welcome. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. How is this new year going for you? It's less than a week old. Do you feel inspired? Do you feel refreshed? Do you feel invigorated? Do you feel full of fight, ready to take on the coming year? Dukes up, drawers on, belt fastened. That's your boxing belt, maybe. I don't know where I was going with that little that little pugilistic metaphor. I suppose I'm asking you, are you in a combative mood? Is that what's required? Do you have to get ready for a fight as another year stares you in the face, and it's basically like looking at a gauntlet that you have to run through? The whole idea of a gauntlet used to terrify me as a kid. I don't know what movie I saw it in first. For some reason, I feel it was a Western, and perhaps a cowboy, perhaps a cavalryman had been captured by Indians, and he had to run through a gauntlet, which was basically a human tunnel with Indians on either side, and you had to go through them, and they'd kick and punch and beat the poor individual who had to make their way to the other side. And I remember thinking, my God, is there no end? Is there no end to the depths of human depravity and cruelty and vindictiveness? And aren't they lovely ideas to have percolating as we kick off this new year? Is that how you're looking at it? Is it a battle? Is it a battle to come? Or are you in a completely different frame of mind? Are you feeling very zen, very blissed out, very at ease, at one with the moment of a new beginning, a new dawn, a fresh start to the year? Are you sitting there in lotus position, just letting life move through you and around you? Is that where your head's at? I mean, fair play to you is all I can say. if you're managing to bring a little bit of serenity to proceedings. It's a challenge. I think it's a challenge. I find it a challenge personally to get that sort of calmness, that sort of centeredness to bring that to bear on your day-to-day moment, on my day-to-day moment, as the case may be. But all of it has me thinking. All of it has me thinking about change, because that is often the theme of a new year. You put up that new calendar, and I'm looking at one from where I sit. I'm looking at a very handsome white horse with, is it the girdle? Is it the girdle that goes around the face? The horse's mouth and over its head. Is that the girdle? And the horse is standing in front of green hedges. The type of green hedges you might find in a maze, perhaps. So the white horse is looking at me. There is no saddle on the horse. There is no rider. The horse is just there, having a moment. And there's another calendar in one of the other rooms in the house. And on that calendar, there is a snow-covered statue. So yet again, white is the theme. White brings to mind to me a new page, that new leaf we are turning over, the fresh start, the blank slate. And we are, I believe, we are completely conditioned to enter the first days and weeks of the year like this every year, because that's what's been set up for us over our lives. The new year, the new start, saying goodbye to the old year on New Year's Eve and feeling a sort of a thrill of expectation, a thrill of the unknown, the thrill of what might come, what might be. And that, I mean, that's a very agreeable feeling, is it not? I guess if you're feeling positive, it could be a feeling of terrible dread if you're inclined to be pessimistic. Those 12 bells ring out at midnight on New Year's Eve, and you're like, oh shit, what now? What next? But think about that for a second. I mean, imagine being there and thinking, there's 365 days of this coming year, and I'm feeling sick now about what might happen, what might go wrong, what might befall me. Like to me, that's it's a very irrational place to be, a very irrational state of mind, and it feels completely illogical to me to have that sense of, I said dread earlier, I was about to say foreboding, something ominous, something wicked, this way comes, to quote my old friend Shakespeare. I mean, I have nothing but sympathy for you. Genuinely, I'm not saying that in a facetious way. I feel very sad. I feel very sorry for someone who's in that particular state of mind. However, there's no reason why that state of mind should be any more illogical than the opposite. Feeling positive, feeling buoyant with that sense of ooh, what great thing might happen this year? What lovely stuff might come my way this year? That there's no reason why that should hold more sway. It's purely a point of view. It's purely a personal disposition, a personal leaning. It's one's bent. How you look ahead and what that impossible to know future is going to deliver, good or ill. So, yeah. So I suppose I'm thinking about it in a way and reminding myself, and I've been thinking about this a little bit this week, because of the week that's in it. And there is, I'm not sure what the right word to use here is, but there's something about this imposition of the divisions of time, how we impose our measures of time on our lives to make sense of them. And here's a question: how useful is it to think of time the way we do? Or how useful is it to structure and apportion time the way we do, dividing it up as we do into weeks and months and years, minutes and hours and days? What does it achieve, really? It's a way of arranging our days, arranging our timetable, arranging our working week, our schedules. It's a way of achieving a synchronicity of understanding. It's a way of achieving a synchronicity of relating to time with people all around the world. And of course, around the world, time is rearranged to maximize our exposure to the sun, to maximize the daylight that we can functionally live with and use, apart from those parts of the world where it's the land of the midnight sun. Is that Finland? Is Finland the land of the midnight sun? Where you have daylight for 6 months of the year and darkness for the other 6. Is that right? Am I being just a really terrible student of what? Of time? Of geography? But I think, and if you can't hear the sort of the rhetorical nature of this question, I personally feel that the way this relationship that we have to time and the divisions of time, it's not helpful. I think on a certain level, it isn't helpful. On a certain level, it is a source of stress, a source of pressure. It brings the ticking clock ever closer. And maybe this is something that doesn't impact children. I mean, I immediately thought of my daughter, and I'm asking myself how she thinks of time. I mean, she's a classic child in that she'll frequently refer to being bored and not having enough to do, and wanting to have fun, and whenever anything fun is on the schedule, time just seems to stand still for her, and the her evident impatience makes time almost move in reverse. Sorry. I mean, I realize, she still hasn't really got the concept of time as we measure it out in minutes and hours. So I'll sometimes refer to programs that she watches or a movie that she's seen, and I'll go, oh, it'll take about that much time. It'll take about this much time. So she's still, I mean, she's 8. I've no idea what the 8-year-olds in your lives are doing or how they are relating to time. But I mean, today I think it was about 3:30, and my daughter's like, right, what's for lunch? Can I have some pasta? And I'm like, hold on a second. You just had a big sandwich not too long ago at lunchtime. So what about a piece of fruit now? And she's like, what time is it? Is it not lunchtime now? So she's anyway, whatever. She's still working that out. She's still on that journey of going, oh, this is how time allows me to understand where I am in the day. But I think for the rest of us, I mean, obviously as we get older, and I mean, when I say older, it doesn't matter. I think once you're a teenager or a young adult, it's relevant, and its presence is felt. But I do think that this concept of time that we have gets in the way of being present, and it gets in the way of attaining a sort of present mindfulness and a present moment happiness. We get very caught up in the passing of time, and in arranging the timeline of our lives, and it starts to adhere almost inextricably to our sense of progress or not, our sense of achievement or not, our sense of advancement or resolution or arrival. And it's, I don't know. I mean, I was about to say it's a kind of sickness in a way, but that's probably a bit too dramatic. But there is, as I said earlier, there is something I think that is fundamentally unhelpful and unhealthy about the way we allow time to rule us, I suppose. And I did use the word earlier, impose or imposition, and there's something, and this is just a mindset. This is, I mean, and you might have you might be listening going, what the hell are you on about? I disagree with you entirely. That is your right. But there is a sort of I don't know, there's the relentlessness and the ever presence of time as we have, as humanity has constructed it, that as the saying goes, it waits for no one. So no matter what we're doing, the clock is ticking. There is no stopping that clock. Other than heading to life's departure lounge and stepping out of this existence. And I'm not speaking euphemistically about anything dire, like suicide or anything like that. But in more of a science fiction, fantastical way, you have to step out of this time zone of planet Earth. But we can't do that. But what we can do is try to untrain the brain. What we can do is try to recondition our relationship with time and recondition how we conceive its passage, so we can attempt to live more in the now. And I do not think for a millisecond that what I'm suggesting is anything remotely revolutionary or something that has not been suggested before. But I think it is worth looking at. I think it's worth exploring. And, you know, as I said at the start of the episode, the context for this is this idea of, oh, it's the new year, so let me open that first page of my diary. I would if I had my diary, but I don't because I messed up. I'm normally pretty good at lining up my diary. Dear diary, I had a really good day today. I had a lovely hot chocolate with whipped cream and a toasted ham sandwich for my lunch. It was delicious. If I had my diary, I have a long history of diary keeping since I was a little fella. My mother's mother, my maternal grandmother, gave me like a little appointment diary when I was about 11 or 12, and there was basically there was one page, you know, where you could jot down, you know, where you had to be, what you had to do for each day of the week. And on the facing page, there were beautiful, a range of beautiful illustrations from, of Japanese art. And those famous waves, the name of which I cannot remember for the life of me at the moment off the top of my head, but you know those ones, those Japanese waves, the ubiquitous Japanese waves that crop up everywhere, when there's a bit of Japanese art floating around. They featured, amongst other beautiful illustrations, and that really began my habit of recording stuff, recording my life, as fascinating as I found it, from a very young age. And I kept diaries consistently until my early 20s, when I sort of lost faith with their usefulness, and which coincided, of course, with having a crisis of identity and a crisis of faith in myself, and questioning everything that had gone before. And my diligent diary keeping was abandoned for a few years. Now, no great loss. I mean, I have recovered some of those old diaries over the years, and they're painful to dip into. These aren't ones, ones for the ages. But in any case, I returned to the diary keeping habit probably in my mid-20s, and sort of settled back into a bit of a groove and settled into a better place with myself, and felt it's okay. You're allowed to jot down your thoughts and your feelings and whatever. And so that has continued to be the case over the subsequent 20 odd years. And normally I am good at having that diary bought, ready to go, ready for use on the 1st of January each year. And I failed this year. It just slipped my mind. I just bloody forgot. And there was no diary there for me. So I only ordered a diary online on I think it was on the 1st of January, or maybe the 31st. Was it New Year's Eve? I can't remember. But it's not getting delivered until next week. It's a horrible start to my year. Thanks very much. Where can I record my units, my sporting units? Every little bit of exercise I do, I jot it down, and they get numbered, they get counted. And I mean, this is ironic for someone who's saying time. We need to just step away from that construct. But I am a great recorder and counter and note taker of life. A little existential accountant, and I am bitterly disappointed not to have my book to open and write down those first thoughts of the year. But further to this general argument for this episode, I'm letting it go. Just let it go. Let it go. It's like you don't have to take a photograph of everything. Just let it go. Trust your memory. If it's worth remembering, it'll stay in there somewhere and you can recall it at a later time. Just let it go. It's okay. And I think this is where I'm trying to get to in terms of time. So before I went on the diary tangent, I was about to say that the new year, the tradition, of course, is to set out one's New Year's resolutions. And so there's a sense that the start of the new year gives an opportunity to consider change. It presents an opportunity to set goals. It creates an opportunity to reconfigurate, to restructure, to ask something different of oneself, with the aim of arriving at a better place. I think that's quite a good way to describe it. Where unless your New Year's resolution is moving in the other direction, I resolve to drink more alcohol. I resolve to smoke more cigarettes. I resolve to be more abusive to old people and left-handed people, the old kidhogs. I don't know. Do some people do that? I suppose they do. Are they evil? But that's typically that's the way it works, isn't it? We sit down and we lay out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and it's often said that gym memberships, there's a huge uptake of gym memberships at the start of the year, and people roll out their annual fee and go, that's it, I'm committed, I'm going to go to the gym, and then people don't follow through. And I mean, I've already seen in the first few days of the year on social media, different sort of wellness, lifestyle, personal training type people on Instagram or Facebook, many of them connected to to positive living, healthy lifestyle, wellness, positive psychology, etc. Many of them are already advocating how to make New Year's resolutions stick. I've seen one or two articles to that effect as well. I haven't bothered to read any of them, but it's a theme, isn't it? And I was just thinking that what is it that, why do we wait a year to go, okay, now is the time to set out the plan. Now is the time to lay the groundwork for change. To me, it's, over the years, it seemed more and more sort of, there's a sort of an artificiality or a falseness or what's the word? It's kind of a self-deceit, isn't it? It's a new year. I mean, it's literally a day after the previous year, and so now we've got new energy, new focus, and we give ourselves this kind of kick up the butt to go, okay, I'm going to affect change in myself. I'm going to affect change in my life because it's the 1st of January. It's, I don't know. There's something about that I have found myself resisting more and more over the years, because it's why now? Why not tomorrow? Why not a month ago? Why not sit down, in mid-December and go, right, I'm gonna change now. I'm gonna give up turkey. I won't eat trifle. Look, the point is, we can make the decision to make changes anytime we want. And if we're using the measure of 1 year as our guideline, if we're using the measure of 1 year as the stimulus to begin something new, it becomes a very large project, doesn't it? I think there's almost like a self-fulfilling impossibility when we're dealing with a chunk of time as large as a year. And my argument is, why aren't we just thinking about change on a much more, a much more immediate scale? So dare we think in terms of weeks? Dare we think in terms of days? Dare we think in terms of minutes, of seconds, moments, the blink of an eye? That is a different kind of challenge. So can you sit there and try and detach yourself from this concept of time? And can you embrace the idea that January is irrelevant, and February will be irrelevant, and March will be irrelevant, and April, and so on? That what is relevant is the moment, where you are at this moment, and what energy you have at this moment, and what perspective you have at this moment, and what tools and resources you feel you are going to be able to bring to bear to this moment to initiate change. And what I'm really, really interested in personally, in myself at this moment, and the challenge I'm setting for myself at the moment, is not something material. It's not something physical. It's not a goal to achieve in terms of accumulation. And I mean, again, I'm saying this as the guy who counts every swim, who counts every session of karate, who counts every walk, who counts who counts how many times he mows the grass or chops wood. That's not a euphemism. This is, what I am interested in. It's not those physical achievements, those demonstrations of control, those demonstrations of adherence to a regime, a healthy routine. I mean, I record all that stuff in my diary again, if I get the bloody thing. What I'm really engaging with at the moment is a change in thinking. And I'm really trying to identify in myself my own thought patterns, my own emotional patterns, the patterns of my emotional and psychological responses and reactions to my life and to my relationship and to everything that I'm doing. And my relationship, when I refer to my relationship, I'm talking about my marriage, but my relationship is also my relationship with my daughter, with friends, with family, my relationship with myself. And I am trying to challenge myself to really deepen my understanding of how I think and how I view myself in terms of how I view myself as as a component in the universe, as a cog that comes into contact with other people of greater and lesser importance to me, and to really become more aware or more tuned into my own rhetoric and my own narrative about my life, about myself, about what I'm doing, about how I perceive these other relationships in my life. And the motivation for this is I am trying to affect change, and I want to try to bring more balance, more harmony is the word that comes to mind. I mean, I don't know why I should hesitate to use that word, because that is one of the goals. I mean, is that so bad? Is harmony not desirable? And by harmony, I suppose I am thinking about balance and steadier sort of equilibrium. And I'm trying to lessen my sense of anxiety. I'm trying to decrease my impulse for anger. Anger that, while I recognize it comes from a real place, is not always that beneficial to me or to people close to me. Really what I'm seeking, and this might sound offensively grandiose, what I'm seeking is what? Oh, I had the word there. It's just dropped out of my head. I was too busy bloody laughing at myself. I knocked it right out of my brain. What I'm seeking is, I know what it is. what I'm excuse me, sorry. What I'm seeking is evolution. What I'm seeking is evolution. And I repeated it there for emphasis. That's an old acting trick. That's what I had this crazy acting teacher in acting school in England, in the mid to late 90s when I trained over there. And that was her line: repetition is a gift. So you'd see a phrase in a text, and maybe it consisted of a word that was repeated 3 or 4 times. And her golden rule was say it differently every single time. And she would approach it from a purely mechanical point of view. So change your pitch, change your tone, change the colour of your voice. So she wasn't talking about motivation or, character or objective. Just no. Brilliant. High art, high drama. So what I'm seeking is evolution. I am trying to look to myself. I'm trying to look to myself to affect change, rather than living with the expectation that the world is going to change for me. So that is a fundamentally philosophical position. And it is about restructuring expectations. And it is about restructuring assumptions. Because assumptions they can be treacherous, and they, like time, are impositions on reality. So we're looking at someone else and we're making assumptions that they're going to behave in a certain way, that they're going to respond in a certain way, and that they are going to fit into one's view of the future in a certain way. And that is a form of arrogance. It could also be a form of delusion. It could be a form of stupidity. It could simply be a form of thoughtlessness. Because, what is an assumption? What is an assumption? It's like an expectation. It's a type of expectation, of course, but it sort of falls into a different category, doesn't it? It's like a what is it? What's the best way to describe it? Like it's an expectation that is taken for granted. So, it's a projected reality or a projected truth that one, that one depends upon to support that reality that has yet to happen. That's madness right away, isn't it? That's an assumption that becomes then a type of projected control, and it depends on other independent people submitting to your vision without consultation. That's the way I'm thinking about it anyway. And so what I'm trying to do with this bid for change, I'm trying to not do that. I'm trying to look to myself as the single cog over which I have a modicum of control. And I am asking the cog that is myself. I'm saying, cog, I want you to change the way you think. I want you to change the way you think. I want you to keep turning. I want you to keep turning in the machine of life. But I want you to change the way you think about others. And perhaps to change the way you think about yourself. And my contention is that if I can achieve this, if I can alter the way I think, that will actually create a new reality. And then it's a matter of letting that new reality happen. So that then brings me to this kind of secondary idea relating to change, change must involve letting go. It must involve letting go of something. And I suppose that does hark back then to the idea of the new year. That, out with the old, in with the new. So we're letting go of what is past, and we are opening ourselves to what is new. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. But there is something beneficial. There is something, to me anyway, attractive, not without a challenge, but to the idea of letting go of something in order to achieve change. And in my case, if I'm asking myself to change the way I'm thinking, then I see the implication, or the obvious implication of that, as there is the onus is on me then to let go of my old way of thinking, and that's very fundamental. I mean, to any of us, because how we think, it shapes how we meet the world. It shapes how we see the world. It shapes how we behave in the world, and so it's not a small thing. And I'm not talking about a radical change. I'm not talking about inversion. I'm not talking about flipping the world on its head. I'm talking about a shift in perspective. And if I can take an idea from karate, and particularly the style of karate that I've practiced, it's a very simple idea. So even if you've no concept of martial arts, you can picture two opponents facing each other, and they're facing each other on a line. And as one person attacks, moving forward along the line, the other combatant will retreat along the line to make room, to move away from the attack, to accommodate, absorb, or deflect the incoming attack, and then to counter with a counterattack. And that can move back and forth along a line in a very linear way, which is the nature of a line. So when I'm talking about a change in perspective, a change in the aspect of my movement, of thought, really what I'm talking about, and I'm borrowing this from karate, is moving off the line. Because that linear back and forth on the line, it becomes a very addictive, unthinking, compulsive lock of dynamic movement between two opponents, which I've seen and experienced many times in a karate setting, where you just lock into this back and forth, attack, defend, counterattack, counterattack. The other person retreats, defend, counterattack, attack, and you just go back and forth. And it's similar to that feeling of, have you ever tried to reverse park your car, and you reverse into the spot, you realize you got it wrong, you haven't got the angle right, you pull back out, and then you reverse in exactly the same way again. Like you can't get out of that shape. And then you just, you frustratingly, drive on down the road until there's an easier spot, embarrassed. So it's kind of like that. You lock in and you can't get out of that shape. And I think our thinking is like that. But in karate, if you step off the line, what you're doing is, instead of staying on the line, you're literally shifting away, either left or right, off the line, still in good fighting distance, with your opponent, and then you can counterattack from a different angle, and it opens up different opportunities for attack, and it could lead to the opportunity to win the exchange. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm still doing karate. I'm still in the engagement with the opponent. And, for the sake of this discussion, let's argue that the opponent is life. The opponent is understanding life. The opponent is your engagement, or in this case, my engagement with life. And I am arguing that I will benefit from stepping off the line, and rather than engaging head on with the same rigidity of conviction or the same rigidity of thought that has held sway for whatever this time period has been. I'm not saying my thinking hasn't changed at different times in the past, but I am convincing. I'm looking at myself at the moment and going, actually, I would benefit at this moment in my life from a change in my thinking. I would benefit. My marriage would benefit. My life would benefit. My internal health, so my psychological and emotional health, would benefit from a change in thinking. And that perhaps leads to the question, how? How do you change your thinking? Well, I think I believe that a change in thought can only happen with quite a lot of reflection and analysis, and the cultivation of an openness when thinking of oneself or when viewing oneself. And I think probably this is something that is really difficult to do alone. I think it requires conversation. It requires exchanges with other people, friends, whoever, someone you trust. This is something that could happen in a therapeutic setting. I mean, certainly that's something that happened for me when I had therapy, 20 years ago now. That was probably, that would have been, one of the times in my life where I was able, I was given the tools and given the helped to gain the perspective on myself to, rethink who I was and rethink how I operated in the world. And, through various friendships, I mean, I've become very good in my life at engaging in these kinds of conversations with a number of good friends. I mean, I consider myself very lucky in that regard. I have friends who are interested in talking about the internal life, is how I think about it, and friends who are really enormously supportive, who are challenging in the best possible ways, who have their own stories to share. And I consider it a very rich area of my life, and one that contributes enormously to my well-being. And over the years, I've just used that area of my life. I've used those friendships to work through things and to sound off, to vent, to ponder whatever is going on in my life, to ponder the challenges that I'm faced with. And certainly this position I've come to now is a product of similar and recent conversations, and I welcome those challenges. I welcome that stimulation. I welcome the counterpoint of other points of view that that I feel like I can trust, and that I'm happy to allow to inform my own decision making and my own sort of existential exploration. And what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is to try and be in a happier place, I suppose. It's, and I can't rush in quickly enough to go. The pursuit is not happiness itself. It's not some sort of, I'm not looking for some placebo state of unending happiness and contentment with no shadow and no challenges. I don't believe in that. I think it's a completely naive idea. But I suppose what I'm looking for is to be equipped in a different way to deal with what life drops in my lap. And I can certainly look at where I am at this point in my life, and be mindful that it's not going to be plain sailing for a while. That's I don't consider that being negative. I don't consider that being pessimistic. I think it's trying to look at life in a clear-eyed way and accept certain challenges need to be met, and they'll be met in a better way if changes are implemented. That all sounds very detached, does it? That's like what language can I use that takes my thinking as far away as possible from the emotional reality? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Anyway, look, that's what it is. I think and I think it's never too soon. It's never too soon. I mean, fundamentally, and I've been preaching this for years to poor students who've had to listen to my rants. Every moment every moment is an opportunity for change. Every moment is an opportunity to recalibrate, to do better. We have enormous power, I think, as individuals, as thinking humans. I think we have enormous power to affect change in our lives. And it was only a couple of months ago that I was talking about the word hexeity, which, if you listened to that episode, I think it was the first episode in November, if you remember that word describes what is essentially your essential you-ness, that quality that is yours alone. And I think if you can engage with the idea of hexeity, that is an idea that suggests we have an unchanging quality that is recognizable to other people, an unchangeable quality that speaks ineffably of us. And I think that that idea of hexeity, that there is something in us that doesn't change, I consider that our core setting, our core sort of disposition, our core leaning. And that might be something we understand as being negative or positive. It might be something we understand as being, resilient, or something that we understand as being anxious. And probably that doesn't change. And I'm not challenged by that idea. I think when I talk about changing a way of thinking, that in a way what we're doing is we're making tweaks or adjustments to how we caretake ourselves. And so the core self probably is quite unchanging over a lifetime. Whatever way our wiring is, whatever way the nurture and nature influences, the nurture and nature spheres, whatever way they interacted and shaped us, those core shaping forces produce something that is probably very difficult to change with and if it's something, if that core self is something that's very damaged, very broken, very traumatized, there's probably a need for change, and there's probably a need to seek change in professional therapeutic settings, with or without medical intervention, whatever. But like on the mean, on the average, maybe there are quite a few of us who've escaped the extremes, and we have a core state that remains constant. And then the changes in thinking, the changes in lifestyle, the changes in how we view ourselves, those are the alterations that allow us to serve ourselves better. I suppose that's the way I think about it. And that's what I'm advocating for myself at this moment in time, 2022. So am I saying a year of big change? No, I'm not actually. I'm saying a year of small change. Here you go, buddy. Here's some small change. Boom. So maybe that's my vision. I'm gonna be on the street, hat in hand, saying, spare change, small change, any change. I welcome it. I welcome it. I noticed this is a complete. No, it's relevant. I noticed on social media, an old friend, an old acquaintance, pointed out that the movie Soylent Green was set in 2022, and I don't know what date. I don't know when Soylent Green was made. I feel sometime in was it a 70s movie or a 60s movie? Maybe it was late 60s, early 70s. Basically, one of those dystopian science fiction future visions of the world. And Soylent Green featured Charlton Heston and quite an old Edward G. Robinson. It may have even been Edward G. Robinson's last picture. I'm not sure if that's correct. But fundamentally, the title referred to this food stuff that this is what people ate to survive in this kind of horrible, grungy, polluted cityscape. The poorest people were surviving on Soylent Green, and Soylent Green then was this hugely powerful corporation. So I mean, this idea that companies will take over the world and rule everything, this idea has been around for a long time. And the tech giants that we look at today, the Amazons and the Facebooks, etc. These are the demons that were foretold. But of course, the Soylent Green, the substance that people are eating that they don't realize, it's actually if I recall correctly, it's either like it's homeless people or it's people who've died, or it's the lowest of the low, and they're being basically cleaned up by these very ominous kind of garbage collecting vehicles. And then it's those people that are being turned into the foodstuff that everybody's dependent on for survival. And that was the vision back in the day of what 2022 would look like. So what can you say? Do we just say thank you, future? Thank you to the present moment that we're not quite there yet. We haven't quite started cannibalizing each other yet. Charlton Heston, he was of his time, wasn't he? A friend gave me a book that features Charlton Heston on the cover, kissing an ape, because it's a work of popular philosophy. It's Philosophy and Planet of the Apes, or Planet of the Apes and Philosophy. It's part of a series of popular philosophy books where they take movies and other things and match them up with philosophy or discuss them as philosophical texts. So that was rather nice. That was a good gift. I haven't gotten into that yet, but I'm looking forward to it. The same friend gave me 3 editions of Viz magazine, the satirical, is that what you'd say? Is it a satirical magazine? It's I don't know. Viz, I guess, is the epitome of a certain type of English humour. It is quite satirical and ridiculous and over the top. I just had a flick through one of them earlier, and it featured, speaking of tech giants, it featured the recent sort of space race that Jeff Bezos of Amazon and Richard Branson, not a tech giant, but a great sort of wealthy adventurer. I don't want to use any derogatory terms, but anyway, Viz does plenty in the absence of my, or in the presence of the poverty of my imagination. Viz replicated that space race where basically it was a race to the moon, where Branson and Bezos were rushing in their respective spaceships to be the first person to masturbate on the moon. And then that didn't work out. They managed to blow up either planet Earth or the moon, and they came across another planet, and there was Elon Musk of Tesla fame, and he'd beaten them to it. So there you go, from philosophy to self-pleasure in space. It doesn't get much better than this, does it? The clear out, we have it all. So look, I'm going to leave you there. That is episode 33 of The Clear Out. Change. A change is going to come. The winds of change. I don't know. I mean, it's up to you. It's up to you to decide. Do you need to change? Is everything okay? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm also a great advocate of that. So you might be just going, there's nothing that needs fixing. There's nothing that needs changing. It's all good. And if that's the case, well done you. Congratulations. You're in a good spot. Okay, so once again, Happy New Year. I hope the clock ticks around in a nice way for you. Just maybe enjoy the moment. Just have a look at what you can control. Just have a look at where you are right now, and don't wig out over what's yet to come, because you just can't control any of that, can you? Okay, you can give me some love on social media if that's your thing. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's The Clear Out 2 on Twitter. On YouTube, it's The Clear Out Podcast. On Instagram, it's The Clear Out Podcast. On Facebook, it's The Clear Out Podcast. You can email me at theclearoutlive@gmail.com. And if you want to support the show, you can do so using the supporter link, where you can make a donation, a one-off donation of your choice. Or you can support me with a regular contribution using the Patreon link. That's patreon.com/theclearout. And that is all. So, take it easy. Mind yourselves. I will talk to you real soon. All the best. Take care. See you. Bye.